Okay, we're on episode 6. Can't believe I made it this far. Thinking about quitting. Just kidding. Maybe not. Whatever. I'm not crying. You're crying. It's fine. Anyway, episode 6, unsolicited inspiration. Last time we did an interview. Today we're going to go back to me just rambling about nonsense that I feel is important, that I feel you should know, that can hopefully get you to change your perspective on things, maybe see things in a little bit of a different light as far as Judaism goes, as far as serving God, adhering to the commandments, and just doing it from a place of actual interest. Because a lot of people I know just do it out of habit. So that's why I almost named this Living Uninspired. But unsolicited is better because no one asked me for it. Anyway, moving along. Today I want to talk about something that's really, really, really important, yet unbelievably difficult. Loving every single Jew like you love yourself. This is like one of the mitzvahs in the Torah that just seem unbelievably impossible. It's like, it's nice in theory, you know, when there's a kumzit somewhere and everyone's, dancing and singing and it feels like we all love each other. It's all good, except all the people we hate are not in that room. And if they are, you better believe we're not dancing next to them, right? I play in a hockey tournament every year called the RCCS Classic. And there's about 24 teams. Every single person, for the most part, shy of a couple ringers, is Jewish. Yet there's more fights in that tournament than any of my regular adult league games between Jews and non-Jews and everyone else. And we're all there playing for charity. Yet everyone's fighting with everyone. It's as if we're all in the Stanley Cup, finals, and it just doesn't make any sense. Now, those are people we don't even know, that we don't even have any beef with. What about all those people that wronged you in business? I know I have some. What about the family members that really pissed you off, right? These are people who you thought were there for you, you thought were your family, you thought loved you regardless, and they slighted you. Usually it's money related or something else. But it's just like it's a seemingly impossible task. And I've seen a lot of different approaches to this. I've seen a lot of different ways for people to talk about convincing Jewish people to love every Jew. And I will tell you that most of them simply don't work. The reason is because those dependencies that we require in order to love someone are always going to stand in our way. Meaning that externally, there's, someone could just be annoying. They didn't even have to do something to you. They're just annoying. It's hard to get past that, right? Or someone has a different background from you and you don't exactly understand them. Or, a million different reasons why you just don't want to love them. And that's just humanity, right? It's the nature of every single day. And the more people you interact with, the more opportunity you have to actually dislike some of them. There's cliques in school. There's a reason certain people congregate together, because some people speak their language more. Some people's vibes just resonate more. There's a reason our friends are who our friends are, and a reason why some people really are not our friends. But nevertheless, we have this almost unattainable mitzvah of Avas Yisrael, loving every single Jew like you love yourself. Now, some people say, do unto others as you would want others to do unto you, right? So, okay, well, you don't really have to love Jewish people. You simply can just treat them in a way that you would want to be treated. And that's nice, right? I mean, the world would be a good place. We could go about our business and no one would harm anyone, because if we really didn't want to be harmed ourselves, unless that's some sort of weird psychological syndrome that I'm not aware of, we'll ask Dr. Mark about that. But the world would be a good place overall. I mean, no one would harm anyone. because everyone would just treat each other the way that they would want to be treated. But Avas Yisrael literally means love of your fellow Jew. So it's not called treating every Jew the way you want to be treated. It's called loving every Jew. And when it comes to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, all the evil, the difficult things that happened to the Jewish people over the thousands of years of creation since this world has existed, it says that the reason the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed was because of sinas chinam. We all hated each other for no reason. And there's different interpretations of that. Some people say it's that we didn't respect people the way that they wanted to be respected. So, like, do unto others, right? That we respected them, but if something was meaningful to them and not to us, we could only respect them on our terms, not theirs, right? And that's a nice concept. But Avas Yisrael literally means loving every single Jew. And we have a mitzvah and an obligation to do that. So, one of the main questions I was thinking of is, how is that even possible, right? It's, everyone knows that Hashem doesn't test us with things that we don't have the capacity to overcome, or else that just wouldn't make any sense, right? You can't give your kid a test of, calculus when he's in third grade and say, well, you failed, right? You can only test him on something that you've prepped him for, that he has the capacity at his age in order to accomplish. So Avos Yisrael must be something that all of us can properly achieve, no matter what type of soul we are, no matter what type of Jew we are, whether we're the heads of the generation or the feet of the generation. It doesn't really matter your social status. There should be no obstacle. Now, the Tanya talks about in chapter 32, Lamed Bet, which is Lev, which is heart. The Baal Tanya talks about that there's really only one way to love every single Jew and truly love every single Jew. And this way requires us to sort of shed the conditional dependencies that love usually depends on, and love every Jew in a way that is independent of those. What I mean by that, and what the Baal Tanya means by that, is as follows. Let's just say that you love someone because they're great to you. They bring you breakfast every single day. They've never harmed you. They're always great to you. If one day that person stops bringing you breakfast, you'll probably still love them, right? And you could say, I really love them because of this. And then if for 2 days or 3 days or 5 days they stopped bringing you breakfast, you would probably still love them if they brought you breakfast for years. What if they stopped bringing you breakfast for 5 years? Would they even be on your radar? Now, you might not hate them, but you're probably not going to love them. And loving is an act of participation, and it's an active participation. Loving every Jew doesn't simply require stomaching every Jew or bearing every Jew or dealing with every Jew. Love of every Jew actually requires you to go out and actively love your fellow Jew. If you as a parent have a bunch of kids and you don't love your kids actively, you're there for them if they need you, but you're never seeking to do anything with them. You're never seeking to give them attention. You're never hugging them. You might stand there and let them hug you. What kind of parent are you, right? You're not giving your kids any of the love. Our mitzvah of Avas Yisrael, of loving every Jew, is supposed to be an active one. It's supposed to be one where we go out of our way to love every Jew actively. The only way to do that, according to the Baal Tanya, is to look past the externalities of the Jew. Look past the body of the Jew. Look past the action of a Jew and understand what the core of every Jew is. And I'm going to explain that right now. A Jew is made up of two parts. We have our godly soul that's connected to God at all times. And we have an animal soul that is what gives life to our body. Now, you can find out more about this in my Tanya podcast, or look in the Tanya yourself in the early chapters 1 and 2. But the bottom line is that we're all made up in a certain way. The godly soul is always fully connected with Hashem. It's never not connected to God. It's an actual part of godliness. He blew into our nostrils a soul of life, and he blew from within his innermost, because if you're going to blow anything, you're going to blow out of your lungs, right? And so at the core of all of us, even though there's Moshe Rabbeinus of the generations, and there's Lavans of the generations, there's Yaakovs, and there's Esavs. At the end of the day, at the very core level, the fact that he created all of us in the same exact manner is one big constant that exists throughout all of the Jewish people. So someone might be a great spiritual leader. Someone might actually be a robber. Is robber still a word? I don't know. Robber? Criminal? Criminal. Someone might be a criminal, but at the very core, his actions don't define the root of his soul. Because at the root of his soul, in order for us to exist, Hashem has to say our name every single second that we're here. We can talk more about that in a different episode of how creation happens, but just follow my reasoning here, which is that every single Jew only exists, and the world only exists because Hashem tells us to exist every single second. And that same original thought that God had to create us, that essential focal point where he said, I desire to create Jewish souls, that is the life force and sustenance of every single Jew, unequivocally. All of us have that focal point, and that is called our yechida, or the innermost point of our souls. So my godly soul might be held hostage and compared to my animal soul. My body's desires might really dictate most of my actions. And someone else who doesn't have the same drive as me to do, satiate my pleasures, that person might spend all day learning Torah, and his actions might be much loftier on paper than mine. But your choices and your decisions and your thoughts and speech and action cannot taint the focal point of what makes you a Jew. And that is that every single Jew is fully and wholly one with his or her creator at all times. And that is just a fact. If you strip away all the dependencies and all you focus on is the fact that at the root core, no matter who we are, every single one of us is manufactured the same, from the same creator. Our souls are called chelek eloka mimal mamash. We are literally an active, actual part of godliness. That innermost part of our soul, which we usually can't even feel until Ne'ilah of Yom Kippur. That part of our soul that we can't feel until we're put into life and death situations that a Jew has to overcome and sacrifice his life for his connection with godliness. That is the same in every single Jew. Now, I was talking about this with someone today, and this thought kind of hit me. And I think that if I leave you with this, it'll be a lot easier to go through life and recognize that that focal point is really all that matters. Vision is something that is interpreted by the brain. You see, eyes on their own in a human being without a brain can't see anything. Your eyes can only see because your brain interprets what it is that you are seeing. Now, I'm not an eye doctor. I can ask my friend, Dr. Sheket. But I believe that every single set of eyes in this universe, from the time of creation until today are shaped differently, are sized differently, and perceived differently. If that's the case, by the time every single person interprets what they see in their brains, and all of our brains are different, we all have our own life experiences that dictate how we feel about things, and we apply our bias to everything, then if I had 100 people in a room, or 1,000 people in a room, or 10,000 people in a room, and we were all looking at one object, I don't believe there is an accurate way to assess that that object has one uniform look to it, because every single one of us is using our individual eyes to look at it. We are using our brains to interpret what our eyes are telling us that we're looking at, and then we're applying our bias to what it is. And the reason I'm giving you this analogy is because when you look at another Jew, you don't even know if the way that you look at them is the way that any other Jew looks at them. And I can assure you that if you took 1,000,000 Jews and we all stared at one Jew, we'd all have different things to say about that one Jew. And all of that just means that we're all wrong about that Jew. Any negativity that we see in that Jew is how we interpret what our eyes see and our brains bias. The only one true vision of what any Jew looks like is the way that Hashem sees us. And the way that Hashem sees us is that we are banim la Hashem Elokechem. We are Hashem's children. At the root core, before all of our grossness and our desires and our body and our thoughts and our speech and our action, we are Hashem's children. We are one. And therefore, if you look at another Jew and you look through your eyes and you interpret them and you interpret what you see, that is a skewed vision. The only eyes we need to look through, the only glasses we should wear, is that we should wear Hashem's glasses and look through the eyes of how Hashem sees every single one of us. Like I said, He has to create us from scratch every single second. And the way He created us at first is by thinking about us, because that's how Hashem creates. That means that Hashem thinks about every single one of us and every single creation, every single second, so long it exists. If we love each other the way Hashem loves us, it'll be so much easier to accomplish this mitzvah in an active way. You won't have to tell yourself to overlook certain things. You will actively pursue love of every single Jew. And I promise you that if you love every single Jew that way, Hashem will love you the same way. See you guys next time.